So last week we talked about the first Spider-Verse movie, Into the Spider-Verse. Now let's talk about Across the Spider-Verse. So I finally got watching it, and let me first off say, for those who saw my last video on Into the Spider-Verse, you guys know that the first time I watched Into the Spider-Verse, I really didn't like it. I watched it, I was like, okay, I see the good things in this. For those who have not seen that video, I recommend you guys watch my video on Into the Spider-Verse before watching this one, because it really, it builds on this video. Now that I've seen the second one, my thoughts are based off of that first one. Going into the sequel, a lot of the same thoughts are going into it. And so it's best if you understand my thoughts going into this one based off of the first one. So I was trying to recommend you guys check out that video. Anyways, guys, so for those who have seen my video and know my thoughts on the first one, these are my thoughts on the second one. As I talked in my video on the first one, I wasn't a big fan of the animation. And for those who have seen this movie, you would know that if you're not a fan of the animation in the first one, you're not going to like it in the second one. With the first one, they played it safe and kept it, while they were really creative with their animation, there was this feeling of keeping it, you didn't feel like they were keeping it safe, but you realize after watching the second one, they really kept it safe, didn't do much with the animation, with crazy colors and stuff like that. In this one, they really push home, they're showing emotion through the colors and through the animation, which is really, really cool. But personally, maybe this is coming from I like animation sometimes, but maybe this is coming from that I sometimes prefer live action stuff. But I would rather see the emotion shown in the person's face than in just the animation. The animation is oh, this is the emotion this person is feeling based off of the colors that the screen is turning. You mean, it's not in the first one you really have it so all the colors stay, the world looks normal. But in this one, which is something really cool, is they make it so especially with Gwen, they make it so the different emotions she's going through shows off the whole world becomes pinkish, or sometimes more blue. You mean different it changes what everything looks like, which I think is really cool. But as someone who didn't like the first one's first animation, I see the good in that, but I personally am not the biggest fan. Another big problem I had with the original was the introduction of multiple Spider-Man and never really given time for you to actually get to know them and you really invest in them. In this one, they had the same, you would think they would have the same problem, right? In this one, they even have it even more, close to 1 million different versions of Spider-Man. You see, you can pause, in certain scenes, you can pause it, and you can, I'm not one of those people who can who will be able to break down every single Spider-Man that shows up in this movie, but there's channels who are dedicated to breaking down movies, and they can have 40, an hour. They have hour videos just breaking down every single Spider-Man that's in these shots, because the fact of the matter is, there's a lot going on. And so you would think it would run into the same problem as the last one. But, and this is something I'm going to make a video about eventually, now that I saw the second one, I'm like, okay, this is going to be even better for making that video about the problem with the first one. In this, because of the reason that it doesn't have that problem, as the first one did, for one simple thing. As I was complaining in the first one, they introduced a bunch of different Spider-Man, and then in the very next scene, they assumed that you would and you would feel sorry that these Spider-Man had to go away. In this one, they have tons of different Spider-Man, but they don't tell you have to like them or not. And because of that, it allows you to be okay, I like this Spider-Man, but it's not because you told me I had to. I like it because I actually like it. Which I really think is cool. There's moments where you just have a Spider-Man on for a couple minutes, and I'm I want to see more of that Spider-Man. Because it was a fun version of Spider-Man. And there's going to be a sequel to that, to this, Beyond the Spider-Verse, I believe it's called, and they're going to build on that, and I think that's really cool. I think that the biggest thing I can say about this movie that's really, really good is that they fixed the problem from the first one of having, just pushing that you have to like the Spider-Man. In this one, you see millions of Spider-Man, and you don't have to like them all. And the Spider-Man they do introduce that are building up to be more main character type Spider-Man, they do a good job introducing them. And you really feel like, okay, I can learn, I like the Spider-Man. You can understand like what the Spider-Man's motives are without really having to, know them that well. So which I really think is really cool. All the fan service and all the different Spider-Man I loved. I loved it. I absolutely adored being able to see all these different Spider-Mans on screen and just have a fun time. It was really enjoyable. I definitely agree with people when they say that this is one of those movies that you have to very hyperactive almost to get to like enjoy it to its fullest extent, because the fact of the matter is it's not a slow paced movie. This is constantly moving. There are some slow paced scenes in this movie, just like in the first one. There were some slow paced scenes, and I think they really worked. I think it's really interesting how this movie had it so that while the story was all still about Miles Morales, there was a big emphasis on this was a story about Gwen and her story. It was really interesting. I really liked that. It began with her. I thought it was really weird, but they made it so when I was watching, I paused just to see what time it was at. It's like 20 minutes into the movie before they finally have the opening card and actually get to start the movie. Like the intro, we're just meeting some of these new characters as they introduce through Gwen's eyes. Takes 20 minutes, which, as everyone who has been following this channel for a while would know, one of the rules I like to say when it comes to setting up characters and all is your intro should be no longer than 12 minutes in my mind. And this intro went on for way too long, but in the end, I thought it was fun. I thought it was enjoyable, but in the end, it was one of those things where the intro kept even going after the title card, and you're now you're close to a half an hour into the movie before you get to now the story's actually getting started. It's really I don't know, but I think they did a good job with the action scenes. This especially, the one Spider-Man played by Oscar Isaac. Eventually, I will talk about my thoughts on. I like that actor because of Moon Knight. I will talk about Moon Knight sometime because Moon Knight is, in my mind, awesome, and I don't know why people are hating on Moon Knight, even because it's in Phase 4, because I thought it was good, and I think it's because it's in Phase 4, it means it has to be terrible. So, anyways, I won't talk about too much of that right now. Anyways, but that Spider-Man, funny story about that. I did not realize there was an end credit scene to the first Spider-Man, this first Spider-Verse movie, until after watching the second one, and I'm like, and then I heard someone talk, and I heard in a video someone talking about how, oh yeah, actually it was set up in the post-credit scene. So I looked at the post-credit scene, and I'm like, oh, there was a post-credit scene that I never saw. But hey, very cool. He was set up in the first one, but I'm like, he wasn't in the first one. Why are people saying he was in the first one? But yeah, he was set up in the first one. Really funny story. So I really like Miguel O'Hara. I mean, he was an awesome version of Spider-Man, and I think they're gonna do a great job. He's whenever he was on screen, I really liked it. It was awesome. He was a great Spider-Man. There was the British Spider-Man guy with the rock Spider-Man guy. I mean, he was awesome. I liked him. The Indian one, he was cool. I mean, there was different Spider-Mans they set up that I thought was really cool and I liked. I think they did a better job in this movie fixing another problem with the Peter Parker really saying why he had kids. Why he had a kid after meeting Miles. And I thought that was really cool. They fixed the problem that they were running into in the first one. I think, so overall guys, I think the way they explain this movie is this movie, in my mind, when people try to say this movie is the greatest Spider-Man movie, it's one of the greatest movies of all times. This is definitely not one of the greatest movies of all times. I'm sorry guys, it's not. But I think the best way to explain this movie is it fixes all the problems that I had with the first one. it does a better job with it. And I thought it was a really enjoyable movie to watch. And to be honest, I wouldn't say I'm like as hyped as I was when watching Infinity War going into Endgame, but I'm still hyped to watch the conclusion to this story. Tell me your guys' thoughts below. I really like this. I don't know what you guys are going to think about it. Yeah, if you guys haven't yet, please subscribe. This has been the Movie Night Review with Peter Ware. Signing off.